Yay!
Hi, chat.
Hello,
We
hello.
have some cool people here today. Eddie,
Yeah. Jayo.
Jayo.
I just learned what that means. I was asking Julia, I was like, I don't know what add oil means. Am I behind?
Yeah, I just taught Jade because Jade's like, what's ad oil? Is that a league thing? Is that a TS?
EFT. Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's a Mandarin thing.
Yay, you got this. Oh, sixth classers here. Hi, sixth classer.
Yay! Yeah, I meant the cool people encompassed sixth classer.
Oh, I think I joined the chat late. That's why, because I couldn't see it. Remember, I was like, I can't hear it on my monitor. I have to go on my phone.
Hi, sixth classer. Welcome back to stream. We have some really cool stuff for
Yes.
you guys today. We have a rare guest.
Yes.
I do we want to do our intros first? I forgot. Sorry, Jade.
Oh
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I forgot too. I got too excited. I was like hyping up Eddie and I saw sixth classer and I was like, oh my gosh. But yes, hello, I'm Jade, community manager here at DuskBreakers.
Hello, I'm Julia, aka Style Piggy, associate producer here at Meta Theory.
Yeah, and we're super excited. As Julia mentioned, we do have a special guest. I wasn't able to see the last time that they were mystically on the stream. Everyone said it was really good. But yeah, I wasn't here yet. So I'm really excited to be able to share my first experience with them on stream. Oh,
Yeah.
Lorcana Fanatic, welcome.
Welcome, Loudy Pants. Welcome, Lorcana
Yay.
Fanatic. Wow, these names are long. I'm gonna leave Jade to say it. um,
Welcome, Nightbot.
yeah, what? The alias you said. Interesting. So our guest actually brought some goodies for us today for the community. So stick around to find out more details at the end of the stream. So let's get to it. So our special guest is Geers. He's one of our founders and art director who designed and created our Genesis collection for Duskbreakers.
Wow.
Yeah, as Jade mentioned before,
Yay.
he's been on our AMA for quite some time. So we're super, super duper excited to have him here. And we appreciate him taking the time away from creating art to
Mhm.
sharing insights on building in the Web3 and gaming space. I'm sure it's going to inspire and maybe hopefully spark some future artists out there and builders who are listening. Please feel free. I have a lot of saliva. Please feel free to drop any questions at any time in chat. Is this where chat is? Hopefully. I'm putting it
No,
right
no, no,
there.
other side. Oh
And
wait, yeah,
we'll
no, 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 you did it the right time.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh, yay.
Oops.
Okay. And we'll answer them. Hopefully Gears will be able to answer them. So let's not delay any further. Welcome, Gears.
Yay.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, also Gears is a little sick, so they might be coughing and stuff, but it's
I'll,
okay.
I'll mute. I'll mute the
He's
mic.
here. He's here for us. Yay, super
Yeah,
special time.
I know. We appreciate you so much for even like coming on when you're sick. That's awesome. We won't pester you at all, even if you know.
Yeah.
Actually, I would, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Ooh, someone's here
Wow.
Yeah.
specifically for Gears. Wow.
I know.
Oh, who
Wow.
is it?
It's the Lorcana Fanatic.
Mm.
Yay.
Do you
Uh,
recognize that name? Let's not dox that person though.
I should open up the chat.
Since Gears is here, I'm gonna wear the special necklace he gave me
what?
yesterday.
I want one. Excuse me.
It's so cool. I look so G. By the way, this is a necklace that he has for his stream. So it's not
It's
like
Deliu.
just for me.
It's Deliu.
It's so cool. I look so G.
I
It
want
has a
one.
little graphic on top. It's like tentacles and this.
When do I get one? It looks like a stamp, like a
I'm gonna
signature
wear it
stamp.
every day now.
Oh, that would be a cool necklace, actually.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Yay. I'll get the updated necklace then. But yeah, yay, welcome Gears. I know everyone's really excited for you to be here. I guess we talked about origin stories last week with summer intern, myself and Julia. Oh my gosh, I almost called myself Julia. That's why I was like, wait. Yeah, summer intern, myself and
Hi, I'm
Julia.
Jade.
Yes, please give necklace to Jade. But yeah, I would love to hear your origin story. I'm not sure if you shared it in previous streams, but I would love to hear it. And for anyone who's also new, if they would like to also learn more about you and your origin story for meta theory.
Sure. I think the last time I was on stream, I was just drawing in the background and I didn't talk at all. So I forget when that was, but they had people come in with their usernames and I drew PFPs while people were talking over that. So
I want one.
yeah.
Oh, I
But
remember. I wanted one so bad when that happened, but I don't think I got one.
Well,
FYI.
well, technically, Gears did draw our PFPs now because they're breakers.
yeah, be happy with what you got. All right.
I got a necklace. I'm happy.
Yeah. No, I come from a traditional illustration background, so I went to school for illustration, and towards the end of my college career, I went to digital. So I was one of the people very early on that was sort of like snobbish towards the whole digital art community, and it's like, oh, that's not real art, blah blah blah. But then once you start doing it and using the tools and learning about it, it becomes apparent that it's very difficult. But from school, I went and started doing freelance work. A lot of that very early on was sort of like web browser based and like Flash games, things like that. And then I switched from that to being art director for a video game review magazine called Game Fan, which is like one of the older publications. It's not around anymore, sadly, but print media is one of those situations where it's not a sure thing whether it's going to be around in a few years. But yeah, after that, I started doing freelance work, doing a lot of work for streamers here on Twitch. So like if you're familiar with Lyric or like Co-Carnage, Sacriel, like a lot of people would, commission me and want me to do their wallpapers and emotes and swag, things like that. And that transition from freelance to catching the eye of some of the staff early on at Twitch. And it just so happened they were looking for illustration as part of their creative team. So basically, while I was streaming, I got a message from the head of design back then asking if I wanted to,
like in the stream, like during the stream.
I got a message, like a private message.
Oh, okay, like a whisper.
Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty exciting seeing something pop up and be like, hey, you want to fly out to San Francisco? Do a quick interview. The interview was actually at a bar, which is interesting enough. Early days. But from like I started working at Twitch on the creative team, so a lot of marketing, illustration, brand design, community art, things like that. And I was there for 6 years. While I was at Twitch, I got to know Kevin Lin, so founding member. And then when I left Twitch, I messaged him like, hey, what's up? Like, what are you doing? He wanted to start a new project. So here we are. Like, meta theory is the new hotness.
Whoa, that's crazy. You went from like critic of art, of digital art, to like full send digital art to like Web3 crypto digital art.
Yeah, I didn't know Gears was at Twitch for so long, for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know.
When you joined, was Twitch like just starting out, or were they was that or before the Fortnite craze or after the Fortnite craze?
Oh, it was well before the Fortnite craze.
Oh, wow.
So
that's OG.
It was just after acquisition by Amazon. So I think I was sub 300 employees, and now they're like, I don't know how many employees. It's pretty massive now, but
wow.
That's cool.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, I see a lot of some Vinlands being posted in chat.
Ooh, and then Yo said Jacob, and I said, who that? Who's Jacob?
Oh, was he talking about old creative?
Oh, probably.
No, it was Dave McLeod. I don't know if Yo ever knew him, but Dave and Kat back when they were running the design department.
Wow. Did you design like any of the emotes that are used in like the base like default emote that you're given?
Yeah, there's a few global emotes. I don't know. A lot of them have been updated, and some of them have been removed. But
let's throw them up.
Yeah,
which one?
Yeah, Yo's got. So I'm a little bit salty with that because Yo posted his global emote, and I was there early enough to have a global, but I never got one because I was
Oh,
either too lazy or I never
wait,
messaged the right people.
that's Yo, the
Yeah,
That's
Buddha
Yo?
bar.
What the heck?
What happened to his hair? I'm just kidding.
Can I
Mhm.
guess? Can I guess? Are these your design? Oh, sorry. Put on the Dustbreakers one
The
because.
Spreakers, yeah. No,
Give
those are
place.
from TwitchCon, I believe. They're so TwitchCon used to run community. So the art, shout out to the art stream or the art section on Twitch. But I don't know if they still do it now, but for a lot of community events, they would pull artists that are streamers and then like ask them to create stuff for specific events. So TwitchCon might have special emotes or like special t-shirts, things like that. Um, yeah, I think they need to do more of that just to kind of promote the art section a little bit, because we've always felt sort of left behind when it came to like, community sentiment. But
Me and Julia. What are
I'm
these?
looking at emotes. It's so
yeah,
cute.
Wow.
you're posting relatively new ones, so
Oh, okay. Because those are
Where
cute.
were you there when they added animated emotes, or was that like after your
oh yeah,
time?
no, I was there.
Oh.
They were so I was actually, I don't know if you remember Jason, but like he was head of community at the time, and we were creating outlines as to like what was acceptable uh, on the terms of service for emotes,
Mhm.
and they shunned like having butt emotes for some reason, and
Yeah.
Yeah, I
it
wanted to
was
have a pig butt and then I got rejected.
yeah, I think it's a little bit more lenient now, but back then I had to draw examples of like what was an acceptable butt and what wasn't, and it was just like it was so ridiculous, but yeah.
So I just threw a pig butt. That was the one that was accepted. But initially I had an X to signify the
The
hole.
whole.
Yeah.
But they rejected it, so I got rid of the X and then now it's just a butt with the fart.
The
I had
figure eight.
that when I was working with Pugly Pug, because I was helping them with their like marketing stuff too. And yeah, like I remember they're like, "Are we allowed to have the X?" And I was like, "I don't think so." So yeah, similar thing.
You had to deny emotes. Yeah.
Eddie denied mine. I'm so sad. Oh, that was sorry. That was so cool. We just think it's cool that Gears worked on Twitch for
Free
so
the butts.
long.
I
Free the
thought
butts.
Gears was on the golf course the whole time, but
I'm
really, he was the
always in my
creator
mind.
of the emotes.
That's his meditative state. Let's talk about your process in general, Gears, in art
Yeah.
creation. Let's
Sure.
and then we actually have we'll have his portfolio running on the side for people to see. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
While questioning him, throwing him questions. Oh, next. So next question is from me. How do you approach creating art in general? For example, like a creature or character in a universe, and how has that creation process evolved during your time here at Meta Theory?
Yeah. So the process itself is still fairly traditional. Like the approach hasn't changed much from, I guess, what you would consider normal game or movie development to sort of like the Web3 side of things, because it still relies on all the same foundations. Like you need to have a certain skill set to create sort of like what the pitch deck or what the original idea is sort of envisioning. So that goes from like what I mentioned before, pitch deck, where the idea is created, written down, shown to the artist, be like, hey, can you do this? Do you have suggestions for that? Which is then turned into 2D artwork. So the benefit with 2D instead of jumping straight to 3D is that you have lots of, I guess, cheap ways to do revisions and get new looks and new ideas before committing to the 3D process, because 3D is sort of the final step. That comes with sort of the rigging and the animation and things like that. So the process is very similar. The caveat for technology side of things when it comes to like Web3 or blockchain is that you need to be a little bit more flexible depending on the tech needs. So that's one of the frustrating things and the more interesting things about Web3 and blockchain in general, is that new things are always popping up where you have to sort of adapt. And art being a little bit more static, the fluidity of the creative process is very different from like the fluidity of technology changes. Sometimes they coincide, but it's generally understood like how the art process works by the artists. But when it comes to sort of like the tech side of things, new computer hardware, things like that. That's new information that the artists have to absorb at the same time. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question well or not, but
I think it did. I just have a follow up because Meta Theory is a remote first team. So we kind of want to ask you like what are some advantages you see and challenges when you're collaborating remotely
Mm.
with the team, and can you share any tips on overcoming any issues in this type of setting, work setting?
Mhm.
Yeah. And so I always approach it as, skill isn't localized. You can find some of the best artists all over the world, which that's like the remote's greatest strength, in my opinion, is that you can meet other artists. They become coworkers globally. So having access to that large of a talent pool is one of the great strengths for remote. It's also the global side of things. It's also one of the biggest hurdles to overcome is the time zones, and that's something that we, as a company, always kind of like comment on almost every single day. It seems like because all of our meetings. So when I'm in San Francisco, the Taiwan meetings are either super early in the morning or super late at night. Um, Davide and Michelle, two of our other artists, are in sort of European time zones, so like they're in between. So when Taiwan's having a meeting, sometimes they have to get up super early, but then they can't make the US meetings. It's just that's like you have to be able to kind of leave comments as time capsules so that when they wake up and read them, they can kind of parse the information a little bit better. It's very, very challenging, but if you can get over that, like having, access to such a large workforce, just such a large skill set is well worth the trouble.
Cool. I agree. By the way, I just want to point out Jade and I are in space and Gears is on Earth.
Yeah. We're watching from above. And we're definitely we're also in different time zones in space.
Yeah, I think right now Gears is visiting Taiwan, so I actually have firsthand access to him. So it's really cool to be able to work like in the same time zone with
Sad.
some people in the company, whereas Jade is still very far away from me,
I
and I don't get
know.
to catch up with her until my late night or my early morning.
Same. We're just like,
Yeah.
oh.
No, it's been great. I'm just hoping this head cold clears up so I can go back. But
Aw, cries. We hope you feel better. But I guess like another follow-up question. I also like while you were describing your process, another question popped up, but I'll save it till after,
yeah.
or like later in the question. But I guess how do you balance artistic creativity with like the technical constraints of blockchain and like decentralized platforms? Like for example, creating the initial PFP for DuskBreakers.
Yeah.
I guess like one thing you could start off with is I know because I've worked with other Web3 projects and creating like that visual effect. Sometimes you can't have like certain traits meshed together because it just doesn't work out. I guess that's a good starting point example.
Yeah, that was I mean, going back to the comment of being able to be fluid when in the creative process to kind of adapt for the technological changes. Layering in Photoshop and having different traits kind of work together properly, that's not anything new. Like they've been doing that since like early days of animation when they layer different paintings to give that 3D effect. But having them generate like even working with it for such a long time, I still don't fully grasp the difficulty of generating all of the PFPs randomly and in a I guess, predictable way, and being able to record that process so that people can kind of go back and make sure everything's on the up and up. But yeah, the technology is changing super quickly. I think that's the more difficult thing than the creative side of things because we're sort of already familiar with that. And with every single new breakthrough, it's like you need to be able to filter out the positives of that new technology versus the negatives, like which which to take on and which to kind of toss aside. But the creative process, and like at least from a digital standpoint, is fairly consistent. And I think yeah, I mean the it's similar to the early days of Photoshop where people were still trying to learn the software, um, and they had the new hardware that was required to create. Because this was before the days of being able to like draw on a screen sort of one-to-one similar to paper. where you had essentially a mouse pad that you drew on with a pen. So adjusting that hand-eye coordination, learning how to use the software and hotkeys, things like that. That was a whole different skill set that even skilled artists had to kind of start over with. So I take that into consideration when I think about the advancements in Web3 and technology now. It's not going to be perfect right away, so like you have to kind of learn all the ins and outs first before you make the judgments.
For sure. Yeah, that totally makes sense, especially if there's like a huge learning curve for those. Like I know for at least myself too, in like a video editing format where like Figma came along, or like
Yeah.
not video, but yeah, when Figma came along, I was like, no, the base layer, you have to have a background base layer that's locked in. And they're like, no, you don't. We're Figma. And I was like,
Yeah.
my Adobe, like traditional Adobe background was like, I need to do this. But yeah, I guess as a follow-up question, or like more of a fun one,
Mhm.
what are like your favorite traits from the Genesis collection? And I guess my added question to that is like, were there any traits that you wish made it, but they just weren't able to like fit in the PFP that you were like,
Yeah.
oh.
So there were so I'll go with the favorite ones first. Like I'm a little bit biased because like I have an affinity for tentacles. So like when it comes to the motifs of tentacles, I included some of those as the rare traits where you have a tentacle coming out of people's ear, or you have like tentacles coming up in the backgrounds. I would say that, and probably the tattoos. So like you have some interesting like Yakuza style neck tattoos. And when they're paired with, say, like, the white face paint with the neck tattoo, it turns into like a very cool look. So the ones that didn't make it are a little bit more outlandish. So I don't know if you ever saw this one, but like I had one old version that had a black hole. It was like a space, like an eldritch horror, like an entity, space entity.
Oh.
But it had like this black hole inside of the face. And you had like this big hole in the face and the black hole inside of it. And then, yeah, it was.
I saw one. I think
didn't
I've seen
see
it before.
one.
Yeah, so
I
like the
wanna
more
see it.
outlandish ones that sort of go beyond DuskBreakers as like a grounded in-world universe. I like some of those because it opened up a lot of questions to like what's out there in terms of world building.
Well, I want to see it. I have to like, if I have access, deep dive into like, I don't know where it would be, Dropbox. I don't know.
I
But
can dig
yeah,
it up.
yay! And then, oh, there's another follow-up question. But how did you create like the initial Gribble design that grew into our second collection?
Yeah, that was the Gribble's got a long and tumultuous history. So the Gribbles were originally meant for as like I don't want to say a throwaway character, but just like a generic space bug. Because for minting, we wanted you to play this little shooter game and while you're shooting bugs, and then that's how you sort of authenticated to mint your Duskbreaker. And so the design of those were supposed to be sort of like not permanent. But then once we started creating Duskbreakers in terms of the world building, things like that, the Gribbles became a little bit more prominent, and they wanted a design that fit a little bit better with the whole like the alien creature design as opposed to just like a space bug, because the earlier versions were just like cockroaches basically, or like little beetles. But the new versions, they were meant to like establish like a whole ecosystem on the Dusk. They were supposed to be a part of like a larger ecosystem, so you had like Gribble predators and like so the Gribbles would essentially be either like the ant hive or the termite hive, and then you would have all of these other aliens surrounding that whole ecosystem. So that was the original idea behind those Gribbles. But the way that they turned out a little bit is like, I don't say like they didn't go anywhere, but like the design didn't allow for integration into sort of like the Machifuko, or like bringing them to Earth. So they ended up just staying on the Dusk, and that was one of the things that we I think we're still trying to figure out, like, because the new versions of the Gribbles and things coming out are turning them into something a little bit more interesting. So
Bring queso to Earth.
queso, yeah.
Queso is so cute.
Smuggling Gribbles, man, that would have been a good time.
Ooh.
Ooh, crabs.
So I'm gonna ask you more into like a new tech territory in art.
Hmm.
So I'm curious, like, how do you integrate new technologies into your art creation process? I know you touched upon it a little bit, but also, like, can you share maybe a project that you know where technology significantly impacted the outcome?
Um, so integrating technology, if you're so any digital artist is already going to have a fairly good idea of like what it takes to kind of adapt or adopt, I should say, the newest tools that are provided by companies, say like Adobe, or Celsius, like they create Clip Studio. Um, the only difference is that Adobe is fairly, I don't say limiting in terms of like what the community is allowed to do because they like to, have a firm grasp on their own IP. But the community work that is built in Clip Studio, like you have an entire marketplace where people are creating new brushes, new methods, new texture packs, things like that, and you can either download them for free or like support the artist, and so that's like an interesting example of where a technology sort of like blockchain could sort of like thrive if you wanted to create. Um, I don't know if you're like thinking about OpenSea, like OpenSea, if OpenSea was a drawing program, and all the NFTs were things that you could like buy to create your artwork a little bit more efficiently, or new brush packs, things like that. Like that would be an interesting way to go about it. Um, but yeah, like the most straightforward example is companies like Photoshop, where they incorporate the latest in graphical processing power. As computers get stronger, the software becomes more and more versatile, and more powerful. And that's like the most straightforward example I can think of.
Cool. Thanks, Gears. Sorry, I skipped a question on our list. So, but we'll circle back to that question later, because
Okay.
I think this new tech is very interesting. I know like AI is a huge thing, is making waves in the creative industry, and I'll let Jade ask the next one.
Mm,
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, AI, especially like at Bed Theory slash DuskBreakers, we openly talk about experimenting with them, especially in our like art, in our lore. So I guess, how do you see AI and blockchain together changing game art creation and distribution? Or like what should artists like usually be prepared for when like utilizing AI? Because I know we like practice with a lot of different models and just like be like, oh, I wonder
mm.
if this works.
Yeah, I mean, you can train models based off of previous existing work. So like if, for example, if we had 10 chapters of a webcomic, we fed that into Stable Diffusion to create a new model, and then we use that model to generate new webcomics. That would feel a lot more custom than say like just, downloading something pre-made that has nothing to do with your IP.
Mhm.
But this is one of those situations. It's a touchy subject in the art community because they're so split, and it's not an equal split. I think the majority are probably against it, just because of the way that a lot of companies have approached gaining that information that trains the data sets. Like there was no real, um, I guess, permission seeking when it comes to scraping, and it's not just for artists. It's like it goes across the board for all creators. I
Mhm.
think Marquise Brownlee had an interesting article written where he discovered like the majority, like a lot of YouTube, but the majority of his videos were directly scraped, and used to train some of these upcoming models. And so I guess like the whole Creative Commons and like the legal usage and things like that come into question when they're so just sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not pompous, but like they just do stuff without checking in with anybody.
Mhm.
um and it leaves a bad taste in the mouth of a lot of creators. So like if I had the chance to, be approached by a company and be like, hey, we want to use your art to kind of train some of our models, um maybe offer royalties, maybe offer like, the partnerships of some sort, just anything that makes it feel a little bit more, um I don't know, legal is the best word. um yeah, the AI and blockchain, I feel they're very different at this point. Um, and the first company that can sort of create Man, that's a difficult question, just because like there's no real good project examples yet that have combined the two into something very tangible. Because AI is its own sort of like thing, and blockchain has existed a little bit longer, and at least in the public eye. So people know what they're getting into. It's already like the idea of blockchain has already gone through the paces. AI is sort of like the new thing where people are trying to figure it out, trying to figure out like what's good and what's bad. But the people, um, I haven't seen a project that sort of gives me that aha moment where it's like, oh, this is how they're going to utilize both of those things into one thing that I can hop on board with. But as the tools improve and like as the quality of the work generated becomes less and less recognized, or I guess less recognizable that it's AI, it's just kind of one of those situations where companies are going to adopt it regardless of whether the community as a whole gives them permission or not. So kind of a negative view of AI as it stands now, and I think it's some step back and a little bit of reset needs to happen before it can be adopted, at least in the public eye, wholly. So
Definitely. Totally see that because it
Oh,
is a new frontier.
mhm.
yeah. And also, I mean, looking back at your journey, I guess, like when you first adopted Adobe, I
Yeah.
think you said at first you were also skeptical about it, right? And also
Oh
how
yeah.
that's gonna affect people's creativity, etc.
Yeah.
Um,
I was, as a traditional illustrator, I was one of those people who were like, oh, digital art, ew. Like, why would you
Purist.
rely on a computer to draw well? It's just like, but once you realized that if you wanted to be a game artist, yeah, they want you to be able to produce like a very good traditional portfolio, but they want you to have very strong digital as well, just for efficiency's sake. And I think that's the sort of mindset that people still have, from a corporate viewpoint anyway, is that, this new tool, it might be shunned by the artists that are creating this stuff, but once it's, you know, industry standard, that's not going to matter because everybody's going to be a creator at that point. But that creativity still has to come from, idea generation, and people are going to excel more than others at that. And I don't think that's going to change. But and for art itself, like, this might be, I think this is one of the questions later on, but like the idea of separating out traditional to digital has always been a thing since digital existed. Even back when like photography first came about with painting, you're always going to have people that prefer drawing on traditional mediums like paint, graphite, ink. And that's not going to change regardless of, how many people adopt AI, because AI is sort of the tool for settling. You generate a bunch of things, you pick one, you're like, oh, that's nice, I'll just settle for that. Um, Traditional, and I guess like traditional digital painting is closer to sort of that freedom of expression. That's more difficult to replicate with AI than I think people give credit to. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. Yeah, hearing you talk about like kind of the dichotomy of the use cases of AI, I think is really cool.
mm,
I definitely see use cases for AI in art, in anything, in our workflow, and but I also see the importance of having that freedom of expression. I definitely do not think AI will replace the creatives. I think it's a tool that creatives can utilize.
mm.
Yeah, I'm definitely in that party and not like, oh, AI is gonna replace um the writers or whatever.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
personally, I think it's going to be disruptive in the sense that it's going to shift a lot of the workforce, but
Mhm.
it's not going to kind of destroy the workforce, if that makes sense. Like, people had this when Jurassic Park first came out and they started using like CGI. They had the same like ideas. We're like, oh, well, what's going to happen to all these traditional, model makers, things like that. And if anything, I think that community separated out into sort of like the more normal people and less about the
Mhm.
industry. Like you would create, before, you would never dream of seeing all these amazing creator YouTube channels, right? So it's like you have Adam Savage tested. He worked in the industry for years. Now he's just kind of doing stuff on his own in his little workshop. And in a lot of ways, I think that's more interesting than the actual process behind, say, like huge blockbuster films. Um, and yeah, I think it's going to be similar for when AI becomes mass adopted. Um, if that comes in the near term, I think a lot more people are going to migrate into doing their own thing. and not really worrying about the direction of the industries, quote unquote. It kind of sucks if you are like if your dream job is to say like work at Blizzard or something, and like one of the larger corporations, and you see all the turmoil and the work conditions, things like that. And that's why you see a lot of people unionizing is sort of like to protect their roles and the positions. So
Cool. Yeah, I think I totally agree with you there. I think it actually fosters innovation. Like people are going to innovate beyond AI. They're going to carve out niche markets other than those mass-produced AI stuff. So I think it's
Mhm.
really cool. And yeah. Um, what's next, Jade?
Oh yeah. Um, I guess we kind of covered most of like talking about AI. I think also for AI's role, maybe it has also a huge like a purpose we haven't uncovered yet of like distribution of art that could actually like help artists as well. I don't know, do you see that as well, Gears? Or is it more so just like in the creation mindset is where like the forte of using AI and for artists?
yeah, I mean, the issue with art being so subjective is that say like you might have a very different understanding or like perception of like an art piece that's generated than I do. Just because I'm gonna from a just say if somebody is not familiar with the creation process behind a large grand painting um, versus somebody who is, there's going to be a lot more criticism when it comes to like what's generated because you spot the flaws a little bit easier. Um,
Mm.
but when it comes to sort of like that freedom of expression, that's a tough one. Just because like some people AI generated art, it freed that up for them. Like if somebody is a prolific writer and they have all of these visuals in their head, but they don't have the technical skill set to get those out down on paper aside from words, like being able to type that into as a prompt and getting something close to like what you were envisioning is an incredibly powerful tool. Like that's like yeah, I was a little bit scared when the first time I used Stable Diffusion. I was like, okay, I want to see this in this style. I want to see like these specific details, blah blah blah.
Oh.
And I generated like 10 versions of it. All of them were different. All of them were fairly high quality in terms of like if I saw this on somebody's portfolio, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is really good. Obviously back then you had like the weird six fingers and like the extra arms and then faces hidden in the background, things like that. But as that gets better, I think it's going to become a incredibly powerful creative tool for the people that aren't already sort of set on just doing it themselves. And then for the people that are sort of on the wait and see side, where they might consider it as I don't want to say a shortcut, but like as part of the process. So maybe instead of going through like 20 thumbnails, just sketching black and white, maybe you generate 20 thumbnails, pick the one that you wanted, and then use that as sort of like the base. It's going to be an interesting time, especially in the next like 2 or 3 years to see where that goes, just because the technology is getting so good and like the computer hardware is getting so powerful. Um, yeah, that's how I view it anyway. It's sort of on the wait and see.
For sure.
That's cool. I actually have a follow-up question because you were mentioning how you were using AI and maybe creating art, how you were experimenting. I'm curious,
Mhm.
how have we used these technologies, these AI, in within our company? Can you share some of that?
Yeah, so a lot of the backgrounds, like I don't want to call them filler work because it takes skill, and if you need specific details, then obviously you want to spend more time with it. But some of the backgrounds that are just rock, or like things that would be time consuming but not difficult for the artist. Generating images where you can just kind of plop those in background is very similar to using textures in say like Photoshop or Clip Studio, where you're just stamping a texture, and you know the people against AI aren't going to look at that and be like, oh, yes, that's cheating, blah blah blah. You can't do that because I would say like the vast majority of manga artists even do that nowadays, where it's you're just taking your pre-existing image, stamping it as a background, drawing the character over top of it, and that's it. Um, we've taken that approach for some of the webcomic stuff, where it's like if we need background, just vague background, then we don't want to spend, you know, 3 or 4 hours having somebody draw a rock. Then, AI is a good way to fill that space. Um, Yeah, for like some of the more detailed imagery where it comes to faces, generally that's used as sort of like the base layer. We separate that out into a Photoshop file with different layers and have the artist paint over it. And then that's sort of like the the furthest we've gotten with it. Like we've never gotten to the point where we're using 100% generated AI just because it's, still a little bit wonky, but
Right. I think you were telling me how you were able, like, there's a tech or model where you can give them reference images that you created, and then they'll give you a certain art style
Mhm.
for like our web comics or something. Can you talk
Yeah,
a little bit about that?
this would be a good question for Dave, but the gist of it is basically you take a lot of existing artwork. So like if I had, a full portfolio all in the same style, I could feed that into Stable Diffusion to train a new model that would produce images that follow, say, like the same type of line work, the same color palettes, and things like that, the same face styles even. And it's not a, one click win. It's more of a, you generate something that's close and then you fix it in post basically. Um, Yeah, that's how training the new models work anyway. It's just the ones that are sort of default are trained on the entirety of the internet, which is a little bit noisy.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't know that's how we used AI in our art creation process within the company internally.
Mhm.
So it's cool to hear Gears kind of spell it out for us. Did you
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of
did you know,
it,
Jay?
No, well,
it's
I didn't know we used it in like that way. I was just like, oh, that's really cool. But also whenever I see like the hand drawings, because it's my favorite, when Gears like showcases everyone's art during like the bigger meetings, I'm always just like, wow, so cute. I want all of them. And that's
I
yeah,
how
all
my heart
actually
goes.
the artwork shown in all hands are generally done by hand. Like Davide and
Mhm.
Michelle are very good, and
So
they draw super
good.
quickly. So it's like it's hard to just be like, here, do this in AI because they're fast and extremely skilled outside of it. So sometimes
Mhm.
trying to get them to learn specific technology would probably take longer than just being like, okay, can you draw this real quick? So yeah, I think man, there was something I was gonna say about AI as a tool again, but I forgot. Sorry.
It's
It's
okay. I
okay.
was gonna say, like, yeah, I asked Years like which of the arts are created by AI, and then I was surprised he said none because he drew most of them. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then
Crazy.
so
Yeah, the
because
PFPs.
the in some artwork that I saw, I
Mm.
was like, wait, did you draw this by hand? And yeah, um, there was one question, like, because like we've been talking about AI, but what other, like, is there other like emerging trends or technologies in the digital art world or in Web3 gaming art that you're most excited about?
Um, for Web3 gaming, it's a lot of kind of waiting for those games where they offer a very clear utility, and that's like one of the puzzle pieces that I don't think anybody has gotten right on the like hit the nail on the head. It makes so much sense from a gamer's perspective to be able to say, let's say we're playing Diablo, Diablo 4 and Julia, where you pick up an item and that's tied to some chain where it's like not just a digital thing that you can like destroy or whatever. Um, that concept makes so much sense to me, but when monetization and sort of like that money factor comes into it, it it taints the purity of that utility. Um, for me, I think you need to sort of find that happy medium where people are willing to spend the time farming the items for whatever utility that they provide, whether it be like in-game stats, the tradability, things like that. But also remove the idea if you find something, you're going to be rich. Um, if that's, regardless of whether or not that's the case, because once you start making that promise, people are going to come in for the wrong reasons. And I see that same trend coming a lot of, from a lot of these um, Web3 projects that have like tokens and things like that. People are coming in for not the gaming reason. They're coming in for, um, you know, the investment, I guess. Um, what was that your question? I don't even know if I was answering it correctly.
Kind of. I was curious because of our AI talks. What other emerging trends or technologies in the digital art world are you most excited about? And then
Oh, yeah.
also like art in Web3 gaming, if that applies to that.
So it's less about software for me. There's a little bit there, but when it comes to the hardware that people use, like I just bought a new iPad. It's like an iPad Pro or something like that, and I'm blown away at how good it is as a drawing tablet. And I wish this was something standalone that I could plug into a more powerful computer, or a different operating system, because with the iPad you're basically on a phone. So the software itself is a little bit janky when it comes to that. What I wish, like I love Wacom, but as a company, they're not that great when it comes to like innovation. Um, and they still charge an arm and a leg for things that are, super
Mhm.
outdated. What I wish is that we'd have somebody in the area, like I don't want to say Apple specifically, but like somebody that could create a tablet that can sort of be the next generation of the art pad for people. Um, and I think that would open up a lot of new possibilities for sort of like the portable aspect and like the comfort when using specific drawing tools, things like that. For the software side of things, I like to see innovation from like apps like Procreate. They created a animation specific version of Procreate, which is called Procreate Dreams, and it streamlines the whole animation process. So it's actually brought back a lot of sort of that traditional 2D animation that you used to, watch, like Aladdin, Lion King, back in my day. But the 3D side of things is where a lot of the questions come up as well, because if we have more powerful tools, AI, and the ability to generate like 3D or like fill in 3D between keyframes in real time, a team of two people can sit there and create a 90-minute feature film in a week, as opposed to, spending, X amount of millions with a team of 200 over the course of 2 years. Um, and, the perception of that, it feels a little bit like cheating, but at the same time, it's like if you had the choice between being able to express yourself in a very short amount of time, so you had a much longer lifetime of creativity, or is that time spent and the work spent that important to you to kind of forego that, and stick with the slower, more methodical versions? Those type of questions are what kind of linger in the back of my mind, just because, I appreciate the craft, I appreciate technical skill, but at the same time, life is short. I want to be able to produce a ton of stuff, and so.
That's cool. I'm not an artist, but I've heard of Procreate. Is that I know it's available on the iPad. Is that something that's available on desktop like Macs as well?
I thought it was only
Uh,
iPad.
yeah,
Oh,
I
so
think
it's
it's an
only
app.
iPad.
Yeah, so it's like it's actually one of my favorite, just because it's a one-time purchase. Like Clip Studio is a subscription now.
Yeah.
Photoshop is a subscription. Like all these subscription models like taint the water for me when it comes to like drawing. Because in the back of my mind, I'm just like, I'm paying these, I want to draw, but like I'm sitting here paying a monthly subscription. Procreate is a one-time purchase, and it's just like it's so powerful for the size of the app. Yeah, if you have an iPad and you're gonna get to art, I would recommend that one.
Cool. Well, I hope Apple is listening. There's a real use case, need case here. I mean,
Apple, I want
come on,
Apple to
Apple.
release. I want them to release like a 24-inch
Oh my
standalone
gosh.
drawing monitor.
Before
That's what I
it-
want.
Wait, Microsoft released something similar. It was
It
it
was
was bigger.
bad.
Oh,
It was
okay.
Goose
bad. It
says
was really bad.
no. Rejected.
The Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The
Yeah,
the Apple or the Microsoft one looked cool,
it did.
but they put in like this really mediocre computer inside this incredible drawing tablet
Oh,
screen, and everyone was just like, "Why would you do that? You're taking away the entire
what are you
upgradability aspect of it." So
doing?
It's like the
Right.
Zune. Do you guys remember the Zune?
Yes,
Zune, yeah.
it's iconic. Oh, I guess like another. Oh, this is like not AI, but I guess more so community based because I do see we have one community question from sixth classer, but
Hmm.
one question before that. I guess what role does community feedback play in your art creation process for like DuskBreakers or any of like maybe our web comics? And how do you integrate like those possible feedback?
I think the most immediate example I can think of is sort of how NPCs are utilized, or like canonized characters within the story, because those are, we have people in chat, like those are people that joined the community, they bought the PFPs, and they turned into characters in the story that we were building. Bertie always mentioned like, oh, like he loved to use Star Wars as an example. It was like, if you could mint Boba Fett, and like Boba Fett was a community member before he became like this integral part of Star Wars lore. Like that's sort of the feeling that we want to try to figure out a better way to go about or like creating, because I think that's one, like, man, popularized story requires good storytelling, and like a deep and interesting world building, and we have a lot of that. It's just we have to start utilizing it, and then once we get to that point, I think getting that whole feeling special, um I don't want to call it emotion, because it's not, but like being able to feel like not the chosen one, but like feeling special inside of a video game. Um, if you see your character as like a canonized character in that world, I think that's gonna, um, I don't know, because a lot of like the traditional gaming does that a little bit with RPGs, but generally speaking, it's a character that you already know, or if it's a custom character, they don't talk. But yeah, canonized characters is probably my favorite example right now.
You hear
Me
that, Julia?
too.
I know you
What?
have yours is
Yeah,
canonized.
I was gonna mention that my NFT, my PFP is canonized, and that was really cool for me.
Mm,
Gears said it would be really cool. I agree. Like someone coming from the community having their character canonized, seeing it in a webcomic come to life, it's kind of cool. It's like basically my avatar. It feels like my avatar, but I know it's not. But it's like, wow, I'm part of the story world of DuskBreakers.
yeah.
I think. Sorry, Jade, you don't
It
have
can
it.
it can be both exciting and scary, because like if you have a canonized character and you're super excited that to be in the story, but it's not up to you where the character's story goes, and then like they're killed off sometime in the future or something, that's one of the concerns that you have. But I mean that unknown is what makes it exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Julia's canonized character can't have pizza. That's the new rule. I'm just kidding.
Worse than
Alex,
death.
it's okay. I'll get another character canonized somehow. I don't know how, but you hear it here. That's so cool. So this was something just curious. Like what other unique challenges or opportunities do you see or have you encountered when creating art for Web3 games, especially compared to traditional games or traditional art?
Um, this is more of a personal challenge, but community sentiment in the artist space right now is extremely negative when it comes to Web3 and AI in general. So if you have peers that are traditional or digital artists, even, um, more often than not, you're gonna get a little bit of shun, like that sense of shun, from that group. So it's difficult to try to, I don't wanna, I'm not gonna try to justify using AI strictly as like the creative outlet, but incorporating it is one of the things that you have to try to explain in a way that doesn't sound insulting based on all of the information that they already have, because they're coming from a place where they're surrounded by negative input when it comes to what AI is and things like that, because everyone knows the algorithm on social media. If you like one thing, it's going to feed you more of that thing. So they never really get a chance to read like the beneficial uses for a lot of these things. And being able to parse that information between like good and bad it's a delicate subject matter, and that's like the biggest challenge for me. The tools and everything, like learning all that, I've always been sort of a tech head, but learning all that has been extremely fun, just because it's new tech. It's like, oh, like you can do this, you can do that, but then trying to explain that to an artist friend that doesn't understand is, it one, it sounds like French to them, and two, it sounds like you're trying to justify theft, which is not what you're trying to do. So
Yeah, I think especially when NFT first came out, it appealed to the artists, like the pure
mhm,
artists more because of the prospect of royalties, like every transaction the artist will get a royalty.
yeah.
So I think that's what kind of appealed. How did that um vision or like that change your perspective on art ownership and distribution?
Yeah, I think from a technology standpoint, it makes all the sense in the world. If you're a digital artist, I guess the only other way to own something digitally is to own the source file. So if you have the original Photoshop file, which is like this magic little thing, but you can even make multiple copies of that. One example I like to use is that DeviantArt, which was one of the bigger community art websites online, is the people that manage DeviantArt and like moderated it would oftentimes pick art that they thought was exceptional or like very appealing or things like that to feature as a daily deviation, which basically all it means is they put it on the front page and they're like, oh, look at this pretty art. But what you had on your profile was the chance to show that off. And it had like the special daily deviation tag. It was like just there for all the world to see, is like, look how special this particular piece is, because it got community recognition. And that sense of ownership or that sense of originality on your profile page with that particular tag is sort of what the whole blockchain aspect of it for digital art was supposed to achieve. It just wasn't utilized on a platform that was like widely adopted, one, but two, localized or like centralized, I should say. Like the whole idea behind it is to decentralize, right? Like you want to give ownership to whoever wants it, but unless you have a place where people are coming in mass and observing and looking at this thing, it's never going to feel like you're getting that same sense of like, originality. Like this is the original Mona Lisa. If there's no museum for the people to go there and check it out. So I guess that's what was missing in my mind, is like there needs to be a place, maybe two, but a place where people can go and look at all these original things. Because the whole meme of like, I can just copy paste this JPEG and I have, just as much ownership as the person that drew it or the person that bought it. In a sense, that's true. Like that, I'm not going to argue that point, but when it comes to sort of like that feeling of ownership, even with traditional art, that's something that is very difficult to replicate.
I can argue that OpenSea is that the Web3 equivalent.
OpenSea was so
of-
noisy though. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I should say it's still noisy. There's so many projects, like new ones, thousands of things popping up all the time.
Yeah.
And fake ones.
And fake ones,
Exactly.
yeah.
I think bad actors definitely ruined some of the what we have in mind. But yeah, but I think, and also it evolved from like NFTs being art to PFP projects, like 10,000 PFP collections, right? And then
Yeah.
gaming. So I think it's very interesting how we're in this space, and then getting your views as an artist on NFTs in general.
The Grim Reaper says, drop your DeviantArt link. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
interesting. It's like similar to say like an original piece versus the prints of that original piece. Is a decent analogy, I think, if you're going to have like the original digital piece and then all the control V, control C's that exist in everywhere else. Yeah, it's a tricky tricky problem. That's what
There's
it is.
a photo, an image just came up from Gears. It's a ghost girl eating ramen with a bunch of tentacles in the background.
Yeah, that was a mouse pad I sold at one of the TwitchCons a long time ago.
Oh, how did it?
Mm.
Oh, it's so cool. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it was like 36 by like 18.
Oh, so
It
it's
was
like a
huge.
desk pad.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh.
this one, the current one gives me DuskBreakers feel. It's like cyborg, cybernetic with like eye.
Yeah,
Like,
this is actually one of the ones that Kevin pointed at and be like, I like this stuff.
oh,
That's
that
the
was the
one.
inspiration for DuskBreakers, y'all.
Wow. I still
Cool.
want to see the black hole. The black hole with the black hole. I think
post
that's
that
Black
in
hole with a black hole.
Oh yeah. One more question before we answer. I think I could ask sixth classers question after too. One step further than like Adobe, but like yeah.
Mm.
I'll ask the other question first. So like I guess any advice you would give to artists looking to work in Web3 or like the NFT or like gaming space now that you would have for them? I know that's like a lot of different industries combined into one, but I think we like here at Meta Theory / DuskBreakers kind of interface with all of them. But yeah, any advice?
So a couple things. I would say one, consider the intent behind why you want to get into specific, like if you want to get into NFTs or Web3, like the intent behind it, is it creative or is it strictly monetary? Because the appeal factor is going to change based off of both of those. Like I would say there's sort of that hype crowd where they're like, you know, the degens that are into sort of like the weird, wacky, the memeable imagery versus people who are strictly looking for like high quality artwork to buy. And second, I would say don't skip on becoming skilled technically just from, you know, like just because all this technology doesn't work or doesn't require you to be good at drawing. If you're good at drawing, you will have a better understanding of what the technology is capable of and what the outputted imagery or whether or not the outputted imagery is good. That's a big one. Because like one of the funny things to me is that the people that aren't very technically skilled at, you know, composition or color theory, their AI generated images reflect that. And like even without, you know, the hands-on process of it, it still comes out through that generation. And I always thought that was so funny. It's just you can kind of tell who's already got art background and who doesn't. So
that's me. I'll be like, oh, I know hex codes. There's like nothing to do. It's like you need like this percent opacity and like at this area compared to me being like, I want it lightly shaded on this side.
Yeah, lighting errors are the biggest one where it's like you have shadows coming in from 18 different directions and like, you know, light sources that don't exist. And it's just, yeah.
Where is this coming from? But yeah, I guess there's like two follow-ups. The first one being is any tips on staying inspired, creative, or like motivated, especially like when we're working remotely. Because I know some creatives like they need to be like at a coffee shop or like near people. Others do like to be in their home and find like natural inspiration. But yeah, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, that's going to vary from person to person, and hopefully people know themselves a little bit better than I do as like a generalization. But for me, like consuming a lot of entertainment media has always been sort of like my driving motivator, where it's like I watch an anime series and I'm like looking at how the backgrounds are painted, or I'm looking at how fluid or not fluid the animation is. Those type of sort of like that type of consumption leads me to kind of be like, I could do something similar. I have a like this gives me a really good idea. Like I want to, you know, start working on this. So yeah, like looking at, I know people are inspired by like Studio Ghibli specifically, where you're looking at all of this beautiful artwork. It's very human. And I always thought it was kind of ironic that one of the more largely used AI prompts in the style of Studio Ghibli or in the style of Miyazaki. So I guess using entertainment media or artists or studios that you admire as like a starting point to kind of get the creative juices flowing. Outside of that, like obviously get sleep, um, walk more, drink more water, just general things like that.
Noted. I should do that. Oh, there's also one last follow-up. I guess like what are some sources of inspiration for you that you regularly, I know you talked about anime, manga, but is there any like thing that helps you develop or helps you like continue growing your unique voice as an artist?
Yeah, I'd say looking at the creative space on platforms like YouTube or Twitch. Some of my very good friends on Twitch now are all from the art community. And watching their process, being able to talk to them live, that's like one of the best resources as a artist if you're still learning, or someone who's looking for new inspiration. Like having people you can talk to in the immediate, where you can kind of like glean information and you know what drives them. Um, ask a lot of questions, like when you do get access to those type of artists, because like that's where you're going to learn most of the new information. Watch a lot of tutorials. So like, even if you're familiar with like say Photoshop or something, if you watch enough tutorials, you're going to find a new method or a new process. So yeah, just keep being curious.
Cool. And then I guess I'll adjust Sixth Classer's question because I know he said, "Oh, Darren kind of answered my question already." But what does Darren think or hope might be the next big artist tool? I know he mentioned Adobe earlier, and I know you mentioned like the digital pad, but I guess like what would be your dream like pencil or like general tool that you would want in your arsenal in the future?
I kind of answered that with the Apple make a new drawing tablet type. But just a lighter, more usable, and more affordable, I guess, drawing tablet when it comes to digital side of things. Traditional, I mean, traditional has been around for so long that you can't really reinvent the wheel on that one. Yeah, I'm trying to think. That's probably it. Like from a software side of things, like there's a lot of good ones to choose from, a lot of free options too. But from hardware, I'd want a new drawing tablet. That's
I have $3. I'm just kidding. The SpongeBob meme. But yeah, Julie, I guess you have any questions as well?
No, I really appreciate Gears taking the time to talk about like creating art in Web3. I don't think a lot of people share their art creation process as in depth as Gears. At least I don't know anybody that does that. So it was really super cool to hear it from Gears. Even though I'm not an artist, I feel like I'm like super inspired now. I'm like, I wanna download Procreate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll draw
No
stick
more
figures.
subscriptions.
Let's play
wishes,
Gartic
all
Phone.
subscriptions. Oh my gosh,
Yo,
no.
Gartic Photos on Twitch was huge for a while.
So hard.
Yeah, it's such a good game. And
It's so
that's where I
hard.
found out who's the artist in our company. We have game nights with Gartic Phone.
Pain. It's not me. I think I did one and I was like, I swear I'm not this bad. I'm just using a mouse and I have like 2 inches of desk space to like move it.
Yeah, I hope everybody kind of got an insight on from Gears on how to balance kind of the creativity and the new technical opportunities in the art in creating art. I think that was really cool, and listening to the challenges and kind of what's next is also really cool. I believe Gears has a giveaway for us today. Let's talk about it. Woohoo! This is something special that Gears brought us.
Yay.
So let me just talk about the details, and then maybe we have some sneak peeks. So who is this for? This is a surprise giveaway. We didn't give much like preview for this. So if you're here, you're hearing this first. Like super awesome. So this is open to all DuskBreakers community. Holders do get extra entries like before with the whitelist. What are we giving away? We're gifting 3 fresh off the presses DuskBreakers art and lore books to random active community members. So how do you enter? Go into our Discord after the stream. We'll have the announcement there, and also the how to enter the giveaway on Discord. When is this open? When is the giveaway open, and how long is it open for? It's from end of this stream to for 3 days, so till July 31st. July 31st, 6 p.m. PT. So that's when it closes. But we'll send out reminders. But you guys get the first taste, first preview of it. Follow our Twitter for more information. And this is the cover. This is a preview of the cover of the book of the art and lore of DuskBreakers. I believe Gears did bring us some sneak preview of the content. Let's take a look. Let's take a look.
Yay.
Oh, the table of contents! Yay! I guess we can't show all the pages, right? So here's something you can expect. You can see kind of the story world
Words.
of DuskBreakers. Words, yes, lots of words and pictures. Dusk, Linda Way Station. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Machafuko. I think this is called the art and lore, right? So I believe there's like some like lore stuff about it. Machafuko, downtown Machafuko. I think there's a sneak preview of the Shadow District. I don't know if this was if people saw this before, but I think this is really cool. Gears, did you create this art piece here?
Are the images supposed to be changing? Because I can't see the.
Oh,
the book.
yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, you have to see it in the
On the
stream. On the
stream.
Oh,
stream,
okay.
sorry. But it's the spit and fire image.
Oh, yeah, that was a lot of editing, but that was Juan Gutierrez, which is one of our artists, earlier on, did that whole environment for the underground, which is very cool. I think I don't know if the artist's name is featured on the individual pages, but they're referenced at the beginning.
Cool. For some reason I thought maybe you created this, so that's why. But it's
a lot
still
of
really cool.
a lot of tweaking and editing to it. Like I drew some of the
Very
pieces on it, but
cyberpunk.
Yeah, it's cool.
Cyberpunk-esque.
Ooh, and then there is a community section within this book.
Yeah. Oh,
And
look.
hey, look, that's my breaker. I think it's really cool. Like as Gears said in the middle of the AMA, like the part where the community members can get their NFTs canonized and worked into the story world, be part of it, help shape it. I think that's what got me in to DuskBreakers in the first place. That was one of the things that was like, that's awesome. I want to own the next Boba Fett. I want to own next Anakin Skywalker. I don't like Boba Fett. I like Anakin. So yeah.
I like
thought that was
Boba Fett.
okay, you can have him then. That's cool. And then there's a section where there's like artist interviews, and this is the page with Gears. So if you're curious about like more things about Gears, if you won the special giveaway, you'll be able to
I think I have
read
a
it.
section. If you meet me, I'll sign it.
Oh, I want to get it signed. Guess what? I got one of the sample books. Please sign it for me, Jade. Please sign it.
Did you steal that one?
No, I borrowed it. I'm gonna return it. Look how shiny it is. So we displayed these books during TGDF. We had, because it was a industry forum, so we had a bunch of people that were interested in it, in our art and lore, and they were like really like studying it, was looking at the art, and was like, oh, this is a really developed IP. So I thought it was really cool. So hopefully people, if you win, I hope you enjoy it. We spent a lot of effort and thought into creating this for y'all. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it in person. I know Ryan has seen it in person. Julia has seen it in person now. And I'm just like...
Get in person. Yeah. So stay tuned. Be sure to follow our Twitter and join our Discord to see how to enter into the giveaway. And if you guys have any more questions for Gears, drop them in Discord or in chat. I mean, he's always there too. If he's not, I'm gonna ping him.
Let him rest. Gears and trying to feel better.
But
thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Gears. Thanks so much. I think we went over a bit. Thanks for sticking with us, guys. We'll catch you in the next AMA. We're always available on Discord and on our Twitters, hopefully.
Yeah, the giveaway is live now, so get there early.
Can I enter? I'm just kidding. I won't.
Oh my gosh, you literally are holding one,
I
and
know.
you have a Gears necklace.
I know. It feels so special.
And I saw Gears before you saw Gears. I just didn't know there was a necklace. Cries. But yes,
you hear that? You hear that, Gears? All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, chat. See you all next time. Bye. See you later, Gears.